Keven Hendricks, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Robby. Great to be back.
What time do you wake up in the morning?
I'm usually up around 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
Wow. Every day.
Every day.
I was not expecting you to answer me this morning when I sent you that message.
Always awake.
Yeah. Where's your office today? Last time you were in your parents' basement.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Still here, okay.
still in Cobra Command down here in the Technodrome. Still here. This is where I have my little bit of a fortress of solitude, where I could do events like this. Otherwise, there'll be a cacophony of background noise of my children and dogs.
So the bad guys, they sit in their basements with their hoodies on, and you sit in your basement.
Yeah, Lacoste shirt in my parents' basement, going after the hooded figure. Right.
Colors, nice. So Kev, you're my dark web guy. I'm very appreciative.
I would hope so.
Keven Hendricks is a law enforcement veteran with almost 2 decades of experience, previously serving as a task force officer for 2 separate federal agencies. He's a published author with the FBI Law Enforcement Bulletin and American Police Beat, and currently works as an instructor for various police training agencies, teaching a class for law enforcement on dark web and cybercrime investigations. Not done yet. He's a certified cybercrime examiner and certified cybercrime investigator by the National White Collar Crime Center, a certified cryptocurrency investigator through the Blockchain Intelligence Group, and a certified digital asset professional through Global Digital Asset and Cryptocurrency Alliance. And last but not least, the founder of the Ubivis project, StopDarkWetDrugs.com.
Very nice intro. Thank you for that.
What should security people know about the dark web and cryptocurrency bubble in 2024?
I want people to understand it. I don't want people to fear it. I don't want people to have these perceptions that it's all hooded hackers in Estonia and Latvia, because I am a big supporter of the Tor project. I am a supporter of internet freedom. And a lot of people do use the dark web for nefarious activities, but others use it as a means to communicate and a means to view information that is heavily censored in their countries. And once we move towards this perception that the dark web isn't all bad and the dark web is not some place where, you're going to find these horrific things by accident, like you're just going to log in and you're going to find some horrific child sexual abuse material just by logging in there. Somehow you're going to fall down this rabbit hole, and that's not the case. That's not the case at all.
Most companies have a no Tor traffic. Why is that? What are they worried about?
Yeah, so from a standpoint of a system admin side, if you're seeing Tor traffic going out, that doesn't necessarily mean it's an end user within your company that's using Tor per se. The DarkSide ransomware group, one of the telltale signs of when the ransomware infected the network was a call out to the specific IPs that were Tor.onion addresses. So if you're seeing that outbound traffic going to Tor, there could be some sort of compromise within your network. And there could be some sort of exfiltration of data in regards to that. But, I think that the reason why a lot of people, especially from a networking side of being a system administrator, are afraid of the dark nets is because of the integrity and safety of that traffic. You could have the most secure server, most secure service in the world, but if somebody's using a node that is a proverbial honeypot node on Tor and they're entering their credentials into this site, it's there's still going to be some sort of intercept of that data, which could be used either, on purposes of selling that data, the credentials, the login credentials, or somebody using that as a means to get into your network. So the concerns are not unwarranted in that regard. And there are, software as a service type tools that are out there for you to safely navigate Tor through a cloud-based service. One such that I work with and I display in the class is something from Sapper Labs called Cloak, which is a service that's designed for you to log online in a completely sandbox, isolated environment and go on Tor, download stuff into this quintessential web-based virtual machine and do your research that way.
Cloak.
Yeah, so
nice.
That is something I would say if you are interested in Tor, but you're concerned about compromising a network per se, that would be a alternative solution.
So basically, we have Tor, we have I2P, we have the interplanetary blah, blah, blah. Those are, I'll call them a dark web platform. And then you have things like Discord, Telegram, Mastodon. Are those forums?
Channels per se.
Channels.
Yeah, for Telegram and stuff. There are those who espouse that Telegram is the new darknet, right? There are stores and bots on Telegram where you can buy illicit things. And now with the kind of the upgrade of the open network, TON or TON, however you want to call it. But the open network is a blockchain built specifically for the Telegram network. So it's interoperability with the Telegram network. You can have your own TON wallets where you could have Toncoin or whatever other Jetin or stable coin that interacts on the TON blockchain. So really it's becoming its own one-stop shop because with the dark web in general, you have to find a way to get your funds to your darknet wallet from an outside ClearNet or real-world based service, juxtaposed to Telegram, which is now basically has interoperability with the TON network, and you can just create your own wallet for your Telegram account via Telegram. So it kind of removes this outside necessity. So I think that is really the new Colossus per se when we talk about what is the new forefront of investigations into illicit activity. It would be something germane to that on Telegram. But the dark web hasn't changed. And if anything, the dark web is always going to be there because Telegram doesn't protect you in the same way that Tor and I2P do. If you click certain things on Telegram, just like clicking links and things like that, that's taking you outside of the Telegram network. And Telegram's main focus is that end-to-end encryption of your chats and your communication with each other. It's not very much concerned about what websites you're browsing on. It's not very much concerned about anything other than that. So that's something to think about is there is this expansion and there is this new forefront of having a one-stop shop economy for Telegram, but that doesn't make the dark web and the different darknets obsolete.
Very interesting because a lot of people on Telegram, whatever they're selling, illegal, pretty much probably a lot of illegal things, that is simplifying their process or their OPSEC relating to coins then.
Yes. So there was a well-known case, a well-known dark web and also Telegram-based shop that was called Televend. And at the time in 2000, 2001, before it exit scammed everyone, it was actually pretty advanced. What it did was it put the customers in touch with the vendors via the dark web. So if I was looking for something illicit, I would go to Televend's dark web-based site. I would sign up. I'd find the vendors that I'm looking for. If I'm based in Norway, I want to have a Norwegian or Euro-based vendor that's going to be able to ship without maybe touching a customs control. Or if I'm in the United States, I find a US to US based seller. From there, it put me in touch with bots that they had set up individually for each vendor. So the sales necessarily took place on Telegram, where the shop had set up. It was using Telegram's infrastructure as a means to have that escrow account, to have the service, the Bitcoin or whatever currency that they had selected for the transaction, not based in some sort of centralized service on the dark web. And it was very advanced. If you look at it, Televend exit scammed. There's speculation about it out there. But really what now Toncoin and the Ton network would do is that would kind of just do away with any type of intermediary. For example, when you think of how we shop online right now, right? We go to any website, there's probably some expedited checkout process that's linked to some sort of service like PayPal, Amazon, checkout, something in those regards. But when we talk about DeFi and Web3, when you have a wallet like MetaMask or you have some sort of wallet that is browser-based, if you were going on these websites, you wouldn't even need some sort of expedited checkout process. You would simply have the funds there already in your wallet as a means to pay for whatever you're doing. And that's really what Telegram and the open network TON is about, is like now you don't need some sort of outside service. Everything could be done encapsulated within Telegram. So that's really what I think is going to be the new forefront in how people purchase illicit things and pay for services on Telegram.
So the bad guys are moving towards platformization as well.
But again, the dark nets don't become obsolete because of that. That's just one medium. And, if for a app like Telegram that's got billions of users around the world, really, that's something that I think is a phenomenal advancement. Now you don't need some sort of intermediary payment service to pay for it. Like, right? Like, think about in Norway, you guys have VIPs. Like, we don't have that in the United States. But with VIPs, VIPs is kind of that intermediary between some sort of financial institution, your credit card or something like that, that's in the app. And then you use that app to pay for whatever, to send the funds like that. Just think of VIPs, but being incorporated into Telegram and not really like needing that other financial institution because you're already transferring the funds into your wallet. So it's a little bit abstruse when I talk about it that way, but I think a lot of people can conceptualize exactly what it's going to do.
Is law enforcement super angry about this because they can't do anything? Because obviously I'm assuming most law enforcement looks at this as like shady business, but they can't stop it.
I wouldn't say angry because this is a very auditable, viewable network. You can view the open network very easily. There was some reporting that came out about the KillNet group. They had parked their own domain on the open network blockchain. Like, you can look up their domain, and when you look up their domain, you can see all the transactions associated with them. So, for example, if mnemonic were to build its own domain on the TON blockchain, you can search the mnemonic domain, and then you can see all of the transaction history, deposits, withdrawals, etc., affiliated with that specific domain. So it's no different than a viewable open blockchain like Bitcoin, right? Or Ethereum or Polygon or any of these other different blockchains out there. I mean, everything is auditable. Every single transaction is documented. So there's still investigative methods out there. I think what this is really throwing the curveball in is the necessity to have some sort of outside service to back your ecosystem, right? Like, you don't need those traditional financial institutions, albeit something has to buy the Not coin or the Ton coin somewhere. But once it's in your wallet, you don't need anything else except Telegram.
This is actually making it easier for their customers to buy stuff, actually, so that they think that it's going to increase their business, basically, by getting rid of the barriers to entry.
Correct. And the exploits would still be there in the sense where, again, you have to liquidate it somewhere, right? Like, you still, it's like winning the lottery but not being able to cash your ticket. What is your lottery ticket worth? Is it worth the paper it's printed on? So there has to be some sort of mechanism to convert it back into fiat to currency that you can use. And obviously the exploits and the monitoring and anti-money laundering stuff would still be there for whatever financial institution backs the liquidity of the open network and ways to cash out. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
Let's go there. You have to take your dirty money, mix it with your with some sort of clean money, and then pull it out, right? And they call that fiat, means like dollars, euros, and then you have all the different coins. Went down that rabbit hole. I'm not sure what I learned. Very interesting. What I did learn is that it seems like there's Monero, something called Zcash, Dcash. What are like the most secure coins? And I want to know, you have all these, cryptocurrencies that are non-traceable, and you have washers, and you have something called peer clips.
Peer clip.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
yeah.
So, all right, let me break it down in layman's terms. If I walk off the plane in Norway and I have $5,000 dirty money, US dollars, and I go to a kiosk for an exchange for kroners, I go there and I convert my 5,000 US dollars to kroners. I've laundered money. I've literally got rid of my dirty United States money, and now I have kroners. Cryptocurrency works the same exact way. And that's why these low know your customer compliant mediums like crypto ATMs, which there are none in Oslo for a good reason. That's why those mediums are used. If I'm a local drug dealer or I'm doing some sort of nefarious activity, if I go to a financial institution with a large amount of money, they're going to find that very, very suspicious. It's banks all over the world do this as a means to prevent money laundering, as a means to prevent their service being, or their banking being used for services from, child exploitation, human trafficking, terrorism, et cetera, et cetera. But cryptocurrency doesn't discriminate. All cryptocurrency can see is that I'm purchasing a specific amount. So if there were a money laundering cycle, how it would work is I would find a way to convert my fiat into currency, cryptocurrency, and from there I'd find a way to sell that cryptocurrency. And then if this chain makes sense, if I go to a crypto ATM with $5,000 cash and I buy $5,000 equivalent worth of Bitcoin, and I transfer that into a service like Revolut, or I transfer it into some sort of intermediary payment digital wallet service that supports crypto, and from there I sell it via the service itself, or if I send it to a virtual asset service provider, an exchange like Binance, Coinbase, etc., and I sell it there, and then I transfer my money into my checking account or my savings account. From the bank side, that just looks like standard commerce, right? That looks like maybe I'm a crypto day trader, maybe I'm maybe I'm involved in something else. So they're just looking at the way the money comes into the accounts. And that is why cryptocurrency is such an easy medium to launder money with. And like you brought up the privacy coins, different coins like Monero, which uses ring CT to obfuscate the blockchain, Zcash, which uses ZK Snarks, which is a separate protocol, even the Mimblewimble based privacy protocol that Litecoin uses. Yeah, these are about obfuscating and protecting the transactions of the sending, receiving parties and things of that nature. But eventually you have to liquidate the funds somewhere. I could have 500,000 Monero in my wallet right now. I can't go to Burger King and buy a Whopper with it. I still have to find a way to convert it. And that is where a lot of the investigative, I want to say like the investigative linchpins happen, is to see exactly how these suspects and these people that are using it for no good are converting it back into the fiat that they can use. So that example of me walking off a plane and going right to the currency kiosk and changing that money for the kroner, I've laundered that money very easily. So when I go to put if I open up a bank account in Norway, which is pretty hard to do if you're not a citizen, if I just go there and I go, hey, look, I want to open up this bank account, here's 5,000 krone, they're not really going to ask questions, right? Like, it's like, okay, this is our currency. He got this currency somehow. He wants to open an account here. Versus if I now have this account open and I'm constantly making incremented deposits or things of that nature, like, wait a minute, this guy doesn't have a job. What's he doing? How is this money coming in? But if the banks see it coming in as sale of crypto from a virtual asset service provider or an exchange, they're not going to scrutinize it as much. I might just be a stay-at-home crypto day trader. I might be a crypto bro, So I think when we talk about privacy coins as well, that's more or less about the way that the virtual asset service provider exchanges would be able to do their due diligence to trace where these funds are coming from. Because you can't trace those funds in a traditional sense. So that's why Binance decided to not support a lot of the anonymity enhanced coins like Monero anymore. So you're seeing the liquidity be a factor in how the money is or rather how the cryptos are used. I just wrote an article for Gray Dynamics about Monero on the rise for the donations and financing of terrorism. And it has nothing really to do with Monero itself. Like, a lot of the Monero bros and people got mad at me because I bought that up. I have no ill will against Monero. I actually admire Monero. I think it's a brilliant, brilliant blockchain. But again, it's being used as a medium for people to finance terrorism, specifically ISIS-K. And the Moscow terrorist attack, could that have been funded by Monero, since they've been accepting Monero since like 2020? So this is something that I think a lot of people kind of trip up, is exactly how money laundering happens with crypto. It happens very, very easily. And it's a perfect mechanism to launder money. And in order for there to be some sort of compliance or due diligence, that's up to both the banks and it's up to the virtual asset service provider, the exchanges, to vet their customers more, to be seeing the activity on the accounts. Because again, if I'm laundering money through a legitimate service like Binance or Coinbase, more often than not, I'm not going to be buying the cryptocurrency on the sites themselves. I'm going to be transferring the cryptocurrency in. And that in and of itself to me is a red flag, because as long as I've been doing these investigations, whether it's dark web related narcotics or whether it's a traditional sense of scamming and fraud, it really remains the same, is that these funds are coming in from an outside source as crypto, and then they're liquidating the funds on the exchanges and then sending it to the financial institutions or whatever instruments of payment that are attached to that account. So it's kind of a unified effort that needs to happen in regards to really locking down the ease of money laundering via crypto.
And then from those videos I was watching, it goes from, that crypto, whatever, Binance, Coinbase, and then it goes to a bank, and then it goes from that bank to another bank, and they try to make it as many banks as possible just to make it harder and harder to get behind the corporate banking walls, right?
Exactly.
So yeah.
Well, keep in mind the volatility of crypto in general too, right? If you're laundering money, it has to be quick, because Bitcoin could be worth, I'm using round figures here, $60,000 at the beginning of the day, and by the end of the day, it's worth $45,000. So did I lose money, right? Did I not? I could lose money if I leave it if I leave it in crypto too long. So the movement of funds has to be rather quick. It's usually done within a matter of hours.
I'm sure that the government agencies have they could see, they probably know what to look for and what's shady, but it's just kind of hard to actually do anything about it.
I don't think it's too hard, no. I think it comes down to just understanding really how cryptocurrency works. And you'd be surprised how many people don't understand cryptocurrency. Yeah, it's not anything to do with technical savvy. It's got nothing to do with how good you are with computers, right? Because that's completely divorced from each other. That's like the belief that because somebody's using crypto, they're a quote unquote hacker, which is such a such a comical thing, in my opinion. To understand how cryptocurrency works is obviously something you have to learn about. You can't just go off of YouTube videos. You can't just go off of these things, because again, a lot of these people that are on there talking to you, a lot of them are profiteers in some way, shape, or form. So
absolutely.
And believe it or not, Robby, even having a very minimal knowledge of crypto, you can mint your own cryptocurrency. You can find investors for it. You could do a lot as somebody who might be a novice in the space. And there's enough guidebooks and things out there for you to become somebody who can really sell your next meme token, right? And it's not too hard to do that. Even minting your own NFT. There are services online like Rarible and things where you can upload your artwork and you can mint the non-fungible token for that artwork. And I find it so amazing, because when we talk about artists who died broke, but their artwork is worth millions today, right? Do their families really see any of that? Not really. But now, for example, with NFTs, which can exist as artwork or song or things of that nature, built into the ones and zeros, the code is the royalty wallet, where anytime that NFT is transacted with, the royalties will be sent to the specific artist's wallet. And that's amazing. And I think that, as the interoperability of Web3 expands, like NFTs are not only artwork, they're smart contracts, they're domain names like mnemonic.com or whatever. That's what most people don't realize, is that you don't own that domain. You rent that domain. You have to pay for that domain. It's like you have to pay your tax. You have to pay your rent. You rent that domain. But as we talk about ownership in Web3, it's like parking your domain and putting your flag there, and in perpetuity, as long as you own it, it's not going anywhere. So that's something that's pretty cool in my sense about what people don't think of when we talk about these different cryptos and the blockchains. It's like the other usage of these blockchains besides the currency transactions.
Oh, so much for you to follow on a daily basis, all these things since I talked to you last. It's like a whole nother world. One thing I really want to touch upon here, and that is like, we've spoke about dark web monitoring. There's a bunch of different vendors all around the world that say, hey, we wanted the dark web for stolen credentials, confidential corporate data that has been leaked. You have everything from zero-day exploits, malware, ransomware tools, and then everything to, access to compromised systems and environments. Those are just some of the things that are underneath this like dark net monitoring. And I just want to get your opinion, like, for the security people that are listening to this, what should they know about the dark web or forums about those specific things I just mentioned?
There is no substitute for being on there yourself. There is no substitute. Again, the way that this data gets put back to some sort of software as a service or monitoring tool, what is the lapse of time, right? Is there a day? Is there a week? How long does it take for them to actually realize that this data is out there? And honestly, I think that there is no better way of being abreast to what's going on than being in the forums yourself. Yeah, there's these certain forums that might require membership, but most of them just want to get paid for you to be a member. So if you were to just have some sort of budget for however much it would cost, like $300 to join a forum like Exploit, or to have maybe a quick translation tool for you to be able to join XSS rather quickly. Once you're on there, you could do the searching and everything yourself. And I think that that's where a lot of people kind of get tripped up, is in the sense where, well, I need this tool to monitor these different, forms and things for me to find stuff that might be very much important to my company. It's like, well, if you're on there, if you have your own dedicated, almost like counterintelligence type branch out there, red team aspect per se, that's doing it, you really don't need these tools because you can do it yourself. And I think that that's the most important thing that I feel companies should ask the question is like, okay, exactly where is this data coming from, right? Is this something where it's like a very, very closed off forum and they have some sort of undercover that they have in there that's getting this data? Yeah, then that's something, okay, it's going to be very hard for me personally to do to get into that circle. But if it's just, like I like to say like a cookie cutter example of dark web monitoring, it's like they're just looking at specific forums. And if they find something there, the question is how much time has lapsed between it being posted and me being notified. Is it a day? Is it a week? Is it literally in real time? And again, I think that what you can do on your own with such a minimal budget is much more than what a lot of these services offer.
Language, right? Like I would assume they're not in English, or they're not in the language that you are looking for things in. But now we have ChatGPT, I guess, so that's probably not that big of a problem these days, or?
Yeah, the browsers like Chrome has built-in translation. Like a lot of these browsers do a good job. I think it's more or less along the line of where language is going to be concerned is if you're going to actively engage somebody, right? If you're going to go from this forum posting there where the person says, reach out to me for more. And these actors leave so much for you to contact them. Their Telegram channel, their Talks chat, whatever they post up there, because they want business, right? It's about business. When you're going to start to engage them, then there might be a little bit of uncomfortability and things of that nature there if you're looking to engage a specific target. But just being on the forums and seeing the posts, that's something completely different. And Chrome has built-in translation. A lot of Chromium-based browsers do. There's extensions out there you can buy that can translate it, and more often than not, it's going to be from Russian to English, or however it's going to whatever your native tongue would be per se.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're on that just to protect your company, you're not there to talk to them. You're just there just to see if I can buy stolen credentials for my company there, and if there is, I just go change a password, I guess. So you shouldn't really need to be talking to people per se.
Yeah, and these other shops too, like Russian Market and things where they sell compromised RDP and things of that nature. Like that's something also important to realize is that your RDP access might already be out there for sale, and these shops that have them for sale. I mean, how these monitoring platforms are able to index that is because they themselves have people that are on the shops. So it's like you could remove that necessity by being on the shop yourself to do your own searching. So, I mean, I fancy this question out there. How hard is it for you maybe to have somebody that logs into some sort of dark web or deep web service once a day just to go
and type in mnemonic, right?
and type it in and see what is out there, right? It's not too hard to do that.
Because it's actually that easy. Can I literally go on there and just search the organization that I'm trying to, like, okay, if I want to see if mnemonic has RDP access on there, I can literally go type in mnemonic and they've indexed it that easily for me?
I think in regards to the accessibility of the site and how the search engines and the sites themselves work, yeah, if you were to search it at mnemonic email domain or something like that, yeah, you could probably get results.
Interesting.
If it were out there,
Yeah.
Historically, though, that is where also if these services have been indexing like for years before you decide to do your own, boots on the ground approach, yeah, you're going to want to see that because again, this site might have been posted like 4 years ago, and now you're searching and it's no longer there because the post has been deleted or it's gone. These software as a services tools that offer dark web monitoring, they also offer it in historic searching sense. So if it were something where now you're concerned about what exposure there was at one point, but most of that data finds its way onto data breach searchable repositories. So it's almost like, if you're worried about real time, if you're worried about that, that's why it would need to be boots on the ground. If you're worried about historical, maybe that might be more geared towards something a platform would offer.
Why would you care about that? Just to figure out how somebody got in? That'd be like an initial root cause of a breach, basically? Like, why would you need to go back in time to see if...
one, how did that data get out there? Is that point of access still open? Like, is that something like, we never closed it and it's been open for a while? And then is it something in regards to password recycling, right? If Robby at mnemonic.com was compromised and your password is bass guitar, and then they go, okay, well, maybe let me try that with some sort of credential stuffing, right? So it might be very much a operational security aspect. Yeah, it would be very useful in that regard.
And then you also mentioned there was like these like no access circles, like undercover people, working for a company. What is sold there? Like, what kind of environments are those?
That is really where you'll see a lot of maybe more classified material, maybe something along the lines that can be incredibly damaging to a company. Something where it's not going to go out there to the peanut gallery on these other forums. Like, this is going to be something where these vetted circles are like legitimate. Maybe some of them are state sponsored actors that are in there as well, that are looking for things that aren't just like, hey, I've got 100 emails compromised. Like, they're not interested in that. They're interested in like some big time stuff. And I think when you have a service that offers people that are in those circles, yeah, of course it's going to be a big value, right? Like, if you're a very large multi-billion-dollar company with offices all over the world, that might be something where you do need a access, or by proxy access, to whatever information would be shared in those circles. That would be like closed Telegram channels or things where these actors were big and they all knew each other. And it's like, all right, we're putting this out there. I just exfiltrated it. I exfiltrated some sensitive data from some government network, or I did something like that. And that could be used in a terrorist aspect. That could be used in different things. But I think for the most part, what people are concerned about is the exposure of their companies or things of that nature that's out there for the masses to see on these different forums, like breached forum when it was still online, as well as these other forums that are out there. And I think in regards to the really high end stuff, like, there's a reason why they say the high end liquor is always on the top shelf, right? It's like, because they're not always going to get it. The bartenders are not always going to get it. They have everything on the bottom shelf, which is easy for them to access. So if you're top tier, like you're going to want to pay for a service like that.
Do you think most companies, their cyber teams, are actually doing anything at all with the dark webs? No. Like any sort of monitoring?
I mean, not from as long as I've been doing this at the events that I've been speaking at. It always seems like this is some sort of weird area that somehow people just know there's bad things going on, but they don't look into it. They don't go on there. And it's like, I always feel that, to know your enemy is to know yourself, right? Like, to know exactly what the enemy is capable of and what they're already doing is a way for you to be able to mitigate that threat. And if you're just relying on some SaaS, if you're just relying on something to try to do the work for you, it's more or less along the lines of, you're not being very diligent. That's just my opinion about it. And when I present at payment conferences like the Payments Association Financial Crime 360 conference, it's like they use the dark web in almost a buzzword aspect. It's like, oh, the dark web, the dark web, the dark web. And then when I really show them, it's like, okay, the dark web is a component, but look, all this stuff is already for sale on these different forums, on these carding forums that you could go to without ever touching the dark web. It's like all this stuff is for sale. And look what they're doing. Look at how they're defeating your know your customer compliant, right? There's other avenues of illicit sales that just consist of IDs and selfies. And why do they want those? To defeat the know your customer compliant aspect of it, because what do most services ask for when you set up? Copy of your ID and a selfie to match that ID to the to match your selfie to the ID. It's like those are for sale out there. And when I presented that at a conference, very predominant financial institution came to me. They're like, we had no idea that even existed on head of security. I was like, you didn't know that there are services out there where all they sell are like docs and selfies? It's like, well, what? But it's true. And the only way that I know about it is my boots on the ground approach to it, because you just have to follow the actors in the forums, and then they'll invite, they'll tell you to come to my Telegram channel. Then on the Telegram channel, you'll see what people are interested. You'll see other actors discussing openly, hey guys, I'm running into issues with VIPs, right? I'm running into issues with VIPs. I'm trying to create all these fake accounts on VIPs, and I need some guidance. And the actors will tell them what to do. They'll be like, oh, okay, I've had the same issue, but I found it was very easy to do this. And that's all out there in time to read. And the only way you're going to get to know that is if you're on there reading it.
Can you also scrape these things?
Yes, it would be. It would be. But again, you'd have to know what to scrape, and you have to know where to scrape. And I know that there are tools out there that do scrape Telegram channels. There are tools out there that do scrape dark web and deep web forums, which are very much important. But again, in real time, viewing these actors that are posting and being able to see exactly what they're looking for, why they're looking for it, maybe some operational security questions they might have, or some tradecraft that they've discovered works. That's something important. And you can scrape all you want. If you just don't know what you're looking for, it doesn't matter, right? And usually more often than not, it takes some sort of event or some sort of cataclysmic failure or something for them to be like, okay, well, why didn't we see this coming? Right? It was like, oh no, it was there. It was coming. You just you just weren't looking for it.
Just a way to wrap up this chat, Kev. There's a blog post from my colleagues. I haven't read it yet, but it was like, are we missing the title Chief Intelligence Officer? And obviously I haven't read it again, but it must have been like in a security context. And everything you're talking about now would be definitely in scope, in my mind, of somebody that works with intelligence.
I agree. My biggest pet peeve is dark web intelligence, right? No, there's no such thing as dark web intelligence. It's intelligence. It doesn't matter if it's dark web or the clear web. And intelligence is one thing, but counterintelligence is another. Like knowing what the adversary knows. Like just being able to talk about things that are going on in real time, right? Like going on these forums and seeing it. That's a completely separate thing. And I think that especially when you have people that transition from the government sector to the private sector with all the prestige of what they did in their careers, that makes for great conversation at the bar. You and I have a great time at the bar when we're in Oslo talking about whatever, right? But that doesn't mean anything if I'm not staying current with it. So if you want to hear about how great I was however many years ago and what I did and some great stories, that's where it's for. That's for the bar. That's not for the company. The company is for what's in real time. What is going on right now? What do they know? What do they think they know about our insecurities? And are they correct? Is somebody actively already in our network with clandestine access? What is going on there? And to understand, with credit card fraud, and I always bring up credit card fraud because that's such a robust area of criminality. It is so overlooked. It is so viewed as a nuisance versus a crime. Most people don't realize that a lot of that bulk data of credit cards being sold on the different channels to which they're sold. There's really three components of that. How that data was exfiltrated, who's selling that data, and then who's the person purchasing the data. Because usually those three are divorced from each other. How did they get that access? Well, maybe they have some sort of malicious script and some sort of checkout process on a very popular site. And from there, they're selling that data almost like the way that big data is with data brokers, right? They're selling that data to somebody who's going to try to sell it as a secondary party, going, hey guys, I've got 100,000 credit cards from Norway, right? I've got 100,000 credit cards that were exfiltrated from the Norway mass transit system. And then you have someone who's like, okay, I want to purchase those. And then when they purchase them, they're the ones that are really the end users. How are they using those credit cards, or how are they using those compromised payment services to commit other crimes? So just when you break that down, so many people are just like, whoa, I never thought of that. I thought the person who's stealing the credit card data is the person who's trying to either sell it or the same person who's using it. That's not always the case. So that's something I feel like when you said chief intelligence officer, yeah, that's very important. But it's also, if you're going to have that position, you're going to create that position, you're going to hire somebody, you have to hire the right person. If you want to hire somebody who's going to, talk great and tell great war stories at a bar, that's maybe for sales, right? That's what they'd be good at, trying to sell. They're selling you a story. They're selling you a fairy tale. But to have somebody that's like, listen, this is the threat. This is what's real. This is what they're talking about on these specific forums. And what are we doing about it on our security side, right? That's something that I feel is very much relevant. You got to have somebody who is versed in that field and is still active.
Are you coming out for HackCon this year, Kev? Or next year?
If they invite me, you just got to rub the lamp, you get the genie. But if Mnemonic wants me at their conference too, just let me know.
You are officially invited to speak at the C2 Summit 2025. But I hope you come to HackCon as well, because your class has always been full every year.
Just you tell the right people there. Hopefully they want me back.
Mr. Hendricks, thank you so much for your time. Keep up the great work. Mwah. Talk to you soon.
Robby. Yes, sir.